Good day. My name is David Wild, and this is the third part of a three-part presentation on Chapter 9 on strategic management from Connect Master Management 2.0. Let's first address the subject of value creation and competitive advantage. Given all these different strategic possibilities, head-to-head rivals will often experience very different profit levels, even though they are in the same industry and subject to the same five forces. In other words, the five forces framework explains why the average firm in an industry is performing well or not. But there are many reasons why individual firms in the industry might be experiencing higher or lower profits. Regardless of the industry, head-to-head rivals will often experience very different profit levels, even though they are in the same industry and subject to the same five forces. Several different factors, such as differentiation, cost, etc., can help companies create value and maintain competitive advantage over their rival firms. Differentiation advantage is the ability of a firm to charge a price premium due to its unique products or services, whereas a cost advantage is the ability to incur lower expenses than competitors. So, in summary on value creation and competitive advantage, regardless of the industry, head-to-head rivals will often experience very different profit levels, even though they are in the same industry and subject to the same five forces. Several different factors, such as differentiation, cost, etc., can help companies to create value and to maintain competitive advantages over rival firms. Now let's address competitive positioning. There are two main ways that firms can develop a competitive advantage through competitive positioning, or the basis on which it competes. First, there are differentiation strategies. There are a number of ways that firms might go about building a differentiation strategy in order to get buyers to pay a price premium for their products to enhance the value a firm might capture. The key to a differentiation strategy is finding ways to build in uniqueness for a product or service that buyers are actually willing to pay for. This might include having top-notch engineers or other employees who are particularly skilled. Other firms might focus on sourcing inputs of the finest quality or choosing the best locations, such as close proximity to research centers and universities. Still, other firms focus on developing complementary service offerings. A firm might not choose just one basis of differentiation, but choose multiple unique elements to package together. The key to success of a differentiation strategy is whether customers are willing to pay more for the sources of uniqueness that the firm pursues. Elements of differentiation strategies can be costly because they require advertising expenditures, better facilities, creative talent, investments in research and quality, coordination between employees, new product development efforts, and so on. Marketing managers and others will need to consider which of the elements of uniqueness are most likely to translate into higher pricing opportunities and at what cost to the firm. A final decision that managers make when pursuing a differentiation strategy is whether to pursue a focus strategy or a broader-based approach. A focus strategy emphasizes a very specific set of customers to target. Customers might be targeted based on many different dimensions, such as income, business versus individual customers, geography, age, and so on. Over time, firms might also engage in strategic repositioning by changing the competitive position of their company. This might involve changing the differentiation versus cost leadership focus of the strategy or changing the market coverage of the strategy. A cost leadership strategy is the mirror image of the differentiation strategy we just discussed. Here, a firm seeks to offer a product or service that is generally acceptable, but does so at a much lower cost. In so doing, the firm is able to capture value. The key is to not have a collapse in product quality, service, and so on that supports a firm's price while focusing on cost reductions. If the firm is able to do this, it will have a larger value capture by emphasizing cost leadership. Just as there are many ways to build in differentiators, there are many possible ways that the firm can reduce cost. For example, lean manufacturing is a set of methods to reduce defects, inventory, and other waste in the manufacturing process. When companies formulate a cost leadership strategy, they can follow a series of 3 steps. These analyses enable companies to identify opportunities for cost reduction. These strategies also allow companies to compare their activities and cost with those of rivals. The first is value chain analyses. Managers begin by looking at all of the activities the firm is involved in. A graphical depiction of the firm's main activities is presented by the value chain, a framework developed again by Michael Porter, which you see in Figure 6, taken from your book on your screen. Second, cost driver analysis. In each activity, managers need to determine which decisions or factors have an effect on cost. Examples include whether contractors or union workers are used for certain jobs, the scale of the activity, or investments in information technology. Third, competitor benchmarking. In the final step, managers quantify how they can achieve cost advantages versus competitors in individual activities by performing them differently. As in the differentiation strategy, the key is for all the activities to fit together well. So, in summary on competitive positioning, while the 5 forces affect the profitability of firms in general in an industry, a particular firm's profitability or value capture will depend upon its strategic position. Firms that follow a differentiation strategy deliver more value to customers and are able to capture value by charging premium prices. By contrast, cost leaders reduce their cost structures to enhance their profitability. And finally, there are a number of ways that firms might go about formulating and implementing differentiation and cost leadership strategies, including lean manufacturing and business process reengineering. Next, let's look at firm resources and capabilities. In order for the firm to create value, it ultimately needs to have a set of resources and capabilities that enable it to offer attractive products or services and to do so on a cost-effective basis. There are 3 steps to carrying out an analysis of firms' resources and capabilities. First, you have to look into the firm's value chain activities to identify resources and capabilities that are valuable. Secondly, to perform a benchmarking analysis to determine if resources and capabilities are rare. And third and lastly, to assess whether it would be difficult for another firm to imitate each resource or capability. Combining the second and third steps in that procedure generates important lessons for competitive advantage and strategy. As Figure 7 on sustaining competitive advantage, taken from your text and shown on screen, shows, if a resource is rare but easy to imitate, then the resource is likely to yield a temporary competitive advantage because it would not be expensive for other firms to duplicate the firm's resource. Though through imitation, a rival would reduce the uniqueness of the firm's value creation and its competitive advantage. However, If a resource is rare and costly to imitate, then the source of value creation is unique today and into the future. The firm is thus able to generate a sustainable competitive advantage. Now, let's look at the barriers to imitation. Several characteristics of resources and capabilities make them more difficult to imitate by other firms. Property rights, such as patents, may make it difficult for an imitator to offer a competing product. Firms also engage in preemption to lock up a resource that is limited in supply. Next, time compression diseconomies occur when it is expensive for an imitator to try to build up a resource or a capability in less time. Causal ambiguity or uncertainty about why a firm is performing so well can make it difficult for a rival to duplicate its resources and capabilities. One reason why such ambiguity exists is tacit knowledge, or the fact that information is not fully codified. Manufacturing expertise, company cultures, and managerial judgment are all examples of tacit knowledge, and hence, it can be difficult for rivals to copy because they are intangible and subjective qualities. So, in summary, on firm resources and capabilities, the resources and capabilities that firms possess will represent the root sources of firms' competitive advantages. For a resource or capability to be able to sustain high profits in the face of potential imitation attempts by others, it must be valuable, rare, and costly to duplicate. Managers must analyze their resources and capabilities when they appraise the strengths and weaknesses of their firm in SWOT analysis relative to their competitors. Finally, there are a number of reasons why it can be difficult for a rival to imitate a resource, including property rights, preemption, time compression diseconomies, causal ambiguity, and tacit knowledge. The final subject we'll address from this chapter on strategic management is a subject of competitive strategy versus corporate strategy. In emerging markets, business groups and family firms sometimes follow a strategy of unrelated diversification, where they operate businesses with little or no links in products or knowledge among them. Other businesses follow a strategy of related diversification in building their business portfolios around common products and technologies. Corporate strategy is concerned with how companies create value across their businesses. The key question of corporate strategy is how firms might develop a so-called parenting advantage. There are several ways corporations can develop such parenting advantages. One is cross-selling, or obtaining increased revenue across business units by selling products to each other's customers. Next, scope economies involve obtaining cost efficiencies by sharing activities across businesses. Finally, firms can share key knowledge or core competencies across different products. So, in summary on competitive strategy versus corporate strategy, strategic management concerns business strategy as well as corporate strategy. Business strategy, which is also called competitive strategy, is about how a firm can gain and sustain a competitive advantage. Corporate strategy, by contrast, is about the management of the multi-business firm and how it can be more profitable than the individual businesses in the firm's portfolio. Cross-selling is when two businesses share customers and allow the firm to get more revenues by the two businesses being in the portfolio. Economies of scope occur when costs are shared across businesses. And finally, when managers are involved in corporate strategy, they evaluate many different types of investments: acquisitions, greenfield investments, licenses, and so on, to find ways to obtain these advantages. And with that, we conclude our three-part lecture on Chapter 9 on strategic management from Connect Master Management 2.0.